I was going to make another video responding to Kyle, but the next point that he makes isn't really saying much of anything that he hasn't already said. But he does talk about Hitler, and I feel like I could just make that a video all on its own. First, let's be clear. Hitler was not an atheist, and the things that he said privately, it does indicate that he was against Christianity and Judaism, obviously, but he did seem fond of certain religions like Islam, Buddhism, and state Shinto, which was practiced in Japan at the time. Now, that being said, he was also against atheism, calling it the state of the animal, and associating it with communism and Bolshevism. In these quotes, especially this one, which seems most insightful, Hitler seemed to believe in something unknowable. But notice that that's what he said privately. Publicly, he was extremely pro-Christian, saying in Mein Kampf that it doesn't matter whether Catholicism or Protestantism prevails as long as Christianity as a whole prevails. And he otherwise appealed to Christianity both in Mein Kampf and his speeches. That's because Nazi Germany was vast majority Christian, between 100% and 95% to be exact. So whether or not Hitler himself believed, these atrocities were carried out by believers. But that's not quite Kyle's point. As he talked about earlier, it's not so much about whether Hitler believed or not, but instead that these actions could be justified using atheistic thought, and by that he means Darwinian evolution. But that's not the case. See, Darwinian evolution only talks about the change in traits within species over time. That doesn't point to a necessity of eugenics, nor does it affect the morality of it. And that changes slightly when you're talking about social Darwinism, but even that is just about applying the concepts of Darwinian evolution to social groups. That doesn't per se indicate a necessity of eugenics, nor does it affect the morality of it. We still have sympathy and empathy, and those actions were objectively unnecessarily harmful. But what Kyle's trying to do here is he's trying to make atheists look like monsters, or at least atheism look monstrous, by saying that it leads to these terrible things. And of course, I disagree with every single point that he's making, but even if it was all true, that doesn't make atheism false, and it sure doesn't give any credibility to religion. But that's not quite what Kyle's trying to do. Kyle is just trying to make sure that his religious audience sees atheism as an enemy, instead of seeing it as it really is.